Kia ora and welcome to another video in the series aimed at teaching you how to play Riftbound step by step, hopefully getting you confident enough for your first turn access night. We're finally going to be concluding our Vendetta pre-release saga with a game between Zed and Renekton. These are the last two legends we haven't seen from this set, because there's only 9 currently in the Vendetta, and it looks like we're sticking with 9 for the near future. We're going to be jumping right into it with the review of the legends themselves and their chosen champions, and then when the mulligan occurs, we'll talk about the cards that we find through there. So without further ado, we'll begin with Renekton, the Butcher of the Sands. Renekton is a red-orange, fitting the same archetype as Volibear and Lucian. There is another one, but I've forgotten their name. Their ability is Reaction. Spend 2 power and exhaust me to add 2 energy. Spend this energy only to play units or activated abilities of units. 2 really interesting things about this is A, it is incredibly powerful as a ramp opportunity for a short-term reward for a long-term punishment in some ways. The other really interesting thing is it isn't saying that you have to recycle 2 runes. It is just saying create or spend 2 power. And the fascinating thing about that is it would also count then for gold or for runes. Not runes, seals. And so this is a really fascinating legend ability where I believe that those who play Renekton a lot won't build gold and maybe won't even build gear, but instead just purely focus on the runes, because while it would be nice, you don't want that many runes anyway, and so that I think is what this is going to turn into. Its chosen champion is the red Renekton, Rage Fueled, which is a 6 energy, 6 might that can be accelerated, and says when I attack, if you control 4 or fewer runes, deal 2 to all enemy units here. This ability by itself is incredibly anti-swarm. I mean, if you had a whole field of recruits, especially if you're playing Ivan, where you build a lot of birds, or Victor, when you build a lot of recruits, this is massively just saying, hey, look, too bad. Obviously, the stipulation of you're requiring to have 4 or less runes is, it can be a bit tough. Especially when you get a bit later into the game where you have let yourself go a bit and now you've got to burn all these runes just for the sake of a clear, but that's okay. On to the other side, we have Zed, Master of Shadows. When you banish a card, you own Empower Me. Cannot be empowered more than once, but as I talked about in my pre-Rift review, the rules of empowerment is it's binary, it's either on or off, you cannot stack it. But it does mean that if you do an action that can empower him, it's not like he becomes unempowered. And his ability at action speed is Disempower Me, Exhaust Me, discard 1 card, and then draw 1 card. So very much so a draw engine with a few extra steps. And his chosen champion is when I conquer, play a Shadow Clone unit token to your base. Now if I show you very quickly what that looks like, a Shadow Clone token is a token unit that says when I attack, you may banish a unit from your trash. If you do, give me Assault 4 this turn. It is a 0 might otherwise, which kind of just means it's going to be really useless on defense, and plays into the aggressive archetype of Zed being a red-purple. Red-purple fills the same category as Draven, who was the king of aggression, as well as Jinx, who was all about burn and discard, and then you had Pike, who was all about burn as well. And so he really fits into that archetype, but he's doing it to himself more than anyone else, which is really interesting. The action ability is pay 1 energy and 1 purple power, move me and a shadow clone you control to each other's locations. So Tide Warp, or Tide Turner, or Smoke and Mirrors. So very strong. Their chosen battlefields are Forgotten Monument for Renekton. Players can't score here until their 3rd turn, so very slow start to the game. Doesn't want things to go too quickly. And for Zed, Zorn Warrens. When you conquer here, discard 1, then draw 1. That sounds about right. More discard, more draw. The Zed will choose to go first, and we'll just begin the mulligan stage. the mulligan has occurred for Zed, and the Renekton will keep as well. So we'll now look at the new cards. This is Spirit Forge, Unleash, Pendulum Blade. It is a 3 energy gear that can be equipped for 1 might, and it says when I move to a battlefield, give me +2 might this turn. So it's pretty powerful. There's no stipulation of there needing to be combat either, which means that you can possibly do some really fun shenanigans where you put this on something and then you move it into a battlefield you already control to give it +2, and then you move it to another battlefield somehow in order to give it an additional +2. But I don't know, I think for the Zed it's just more aggression. Then they have their signature ability, the 2 energy 1 power, Death Mark. You begin by burning 3 cards, which is you take the top 3 cards of your main deck and put them into your trash directly. And then it says play a Shadow Clone, and that's it. Just play a Shadow Clone. And then you can recast it from your trash for flow for 1 energy and 2 power to do the same thing. So this is in some ways a really interesting signature spell. I think that it has a lot of potential, but also plays heavily into the idea of a burn deck. Because, I mean, the only benefit to this card is you're essentially burning 6 for 3 energy, 3 power. But the 2 Shadow Clones could seem to be very useful. I'm not too sure. And the last card is from Unleashed as well. Now over to the Renekton side, no new cards just yet. So we'll just begin by tapping 2 and playing out a Treasure Hunter for the Zed. And we will move over to the Renekton, who for 3 runes, and recycle 1, be playing out Eager Drakehound, who enters ready. And then move that Eager Drakehound over to the Zorn Warrens, who will then score 1 point, and they will discard their Here to Help and draw 1 into another Gentle Gem Dragon. If you can't tell by looking at this, this is a Dragon Volibear style, but for Renekton instead. We now move over to Zed's turn, and they have drawn their next new card, which is Consuming Curse, a 2 energy spell at action speed that says deal 2 damage to a unit at a battlefield. This deals 1 bonus damage for each unit with this name in your trash. Oh, for each card with this name in its trash, sorry. This is going to be a really consistent archetype you're going to see in this Zed deck. I had a quick scan of it before playing, where there are a lot of cards that rely on cards of the same name being found in your trash. And this is one of them. I think there's 2 others I can think of off the top of my head. For the Zed, they are going to begin by tapping 2 and recycling their purple rune in order to play Death Mark. They then will burn the 3 top cards of their deck. They will burn a Rasa, a Shadows of the Past, which is a new card, and Fizz. Shadows of the Past is a 3 energy 1 power spell that says return up to 2 units from trashes to their owner's hands. Keep in mind it doesn't specify who. It can be your friend if you want to help out your teammate. It can be yourself if you want to help yourself, and it can be an enemy if you don't want to help them. This is a really good way to counter certain death knells, such as Glass Mixologist or the play of Soul Gorger, in which units can be returned from trash to the play area. This is just a quick way, such as you could do this to cards such as Chosen Champions. While yes, it does mean that they get them back to their hand, you can do it to very expensive cards in order to offset the cost benefit that they would have received things from such as Soul Gorger. Or things such as Fizz, if they only have 1 or 2 units in their trash, you can return them both to hand, so on the death knell of something like a Glass Mixologist, it just fizzles. But anyway, we will now resolve the Death Mark. We will then tap 1 more, recycle 2 in order to play the Death Mark for flow. 1, 2, 3. So we got rid of a Cannon and a Carly. Oh, sorry, a Cannon, Storm of the Surge, a Spell, Perfect Execution, and another Consuming Curse. Pretty good. We will then remove the Zed as we played it for Flow, and Flow requires the card to be banished afterwards. And unfortunately for the Zed in the circumstances, they are just going to move to create a gold, but because it's not their third turn, it's their second turn, they cannot conquer to get a point. But there's no point in fighting the Eager Drakehound without some benefit. I realised a bit too lately that the Pendulum Blade was a quick way to win that battle, but we got to burn 6 cards pretty quickly, and so I think we can be happy enough with that. It is now the Renekton's turn. They are going up to 2 points, and they draw a card that not many people would have seen, but it is from Origins. It's called Raging Firebrand. It is a 6 energy, 1 power, 4 might unit that says when you play me, this next spell you play this turn costs 5 energy less. A lot of people played this card in Kaiser decks as a way to offset the cost of things such as Singularity while providing yourself a unit, because while this does cost the exact same as a Singularity, essentially for 7 energy and 2 power, because of the Kaiser ability reducing, being able to offset the cost by 1 for each turn, you could play Singularity and get a 4 might unit, which a lot of people saw as a really strong way to ramp up, and it was very effective. The 5 obviously can also be used in a multitude of ways. Some people used it for a free falling comet, some people used it to offset the cost of things like a Cathian Rain. But regardless, it is what the Renekton has pulled. They are then going to, for just thinking whether or not I wanted to bring up the Renekton this turn by tapping for recycling 2 with the Renekton and then bring him out. But I think for this turn, we are better off just doing a channel going up to 5, and then next turn going up to 7, and then we can recycle 2 in order to play out a Gentle Gem Dragon. And that is exactly what we will do, and then we will, for 2 runes up, we'll pass. It is now the Zed's turn. They draw another Consuming Curse, so I've seen all 3 now, and we can see them all 3 on screen at the one time. It is now the 3rd turn, and that means that the Zed can hold and will score 1 point. The Treasure Hunter is going to move back and create 1 more gold at the base. And then for 2, they're going to play a Consuming Curse, dealing 2 damage, but it's going to deal an additional damage because of the Consuming Curse currently in trash, killing the Eager Drakehound. There is nothing the Renekton can do about this, and that's okay. Then with 1 rune remaining, they are just going to pass. We are going to do a quick pit stop and review if there's any flow cards in Zed's trash, and there is 1 at slow speed for 3 energy, 1 power, and it says get ready a unit and give it +3 assault this turn. Kind of powerful, but at the moment we cannot play that, otherwise there is nothing. It is now the Renekton's turn. They draw their next Falling Star, and as I mentioned, we're going to begin by tapping 6, recycling 2 in order to tap the Renekton Legend, creating 2 more, and with that 6 + 2, we're going to play out a Gentle Gem Dragon, and on the play of himself, he can ready up to 2 runes. The reason I didn't tap all of them is because otherwise that would be an excess cost of runage that we do not want to spend. But then we are going to tap those 2 runes and recycle 2 in order to play a Falling Star, targeting the Treasure Hunter twice. The Treasure Hunter will die, and that will resolve the turn. It is now the Zed's turn, and without any units, they do have to, unfortunately for themselves, consider whether it's time bringing out their chosen champion. And I think that's what they'll have to do. It does not come in accelerated, nor it cannot become accelerated. I forgot to empower the Zed for banishing the death mark, or banishing the death mark. So technically Zed is currently empowered. They will then use that empowerment in order to discard away the Headless Resurrection and draw 1 into a Tide Turner. And then they will pass. It is now the Renekton's turn, and they're going to move their Gentle Gem Dragon over to this battlefield, scoring to 3. And then they're going to tap 5 in order to play out a Blazing Scorcher. And because it is a dragon, it will ready 2 afterwards. I'm just considering playing the Falling Star to kill the Zed outright. But actually, yeah, no, that's the correct play. So we'll tap 2, recycle 2 reds, and then we'll kill the Zed. And the Zed, unfortunately, will die for it. And then we'll pass turn. The Zed drew a Shadows of the Past, which means they can return up to 2 units to their owner's hands. I just messed up my hair a bit, don't mind me. Having a bad hair day, but having a good hair day at the same time. It's doing something. The Shadow's Curse, I think, is actually a really strong play right now. We'll tap 3 and get rid of a gold in order to play a Shadow's Curse, and that means that we'll be able to return up to 2 units to our hand from our trash as well. And I think we're going to return the Kennen and the Zed. We could return the Rasa, and the Rasa would be technically 1 power right now, but we're going to decide not to do that. Then for our remaining 4 runes, we're going to tap 3 and get rid of the gold in order to play the Kennen, which says when you play me, burn 2, and we're going to be burning another Fizz, and a new card, Shadow Assassin. When I enter ready, if you have a card with my name in your trash, so this is another card like the Consuming Curse that wants things with the same name in trash. Kind of powerful. He has the conquer ability of, when I conquer, give a spell in your trash flow equal to its cost this turn, so we could see some really exciting things in the near future, but they will pass. And Renekton will score to 4 points. They will then... They'll move over to here, score to 5, they'll recycle the Raging Firebrand, discard, sorry, the Raging Firebrand, and pull a Seal of Rage. So this deck actually does play a Seal, that's really interesting. They probably play 3, and I've just gotten a bit unlucky. Their Gentle Gem Dragon may come back. And then for 4 and 5, 6 for the Renekton Legend, we'll be bringing out the Renekton Chosen Champion. It is not a dragon, it is a Renekton and Shrema, so we'll not get the Gentle Gem Dragon proc. And they will pass their turn. It is now the Zed's turn, and they will begin by moving their Kennen over to this battlefield and scoring 2-2. And then they will give a... Because the wording, you must choose which spell you give in your trash flow. You cannot decide at a later date. At the moment, the Shadows of the Past would be quite strong. Alternatively, a Headless Resurrection, killing the... playing the Rasa, Headless Resurrecting it, would be kind of fun, but we already have one of those in hand, so we don't need to worry too much. Headless Resurrecting a Fizz just lets us play a spell, which we don't need to worry about, because we're already returning a spell to our hand. I think it'll either be Shadows Past. I think it'll be a Shadows of the Past. We can play for 3 energy, 1 power this turn at flow. With the remaining 9 runes, we will tap 3, recycle 1 in order to play out that Shadows of the Past. And for our turn, we'll be returning 1 Fizz to hand and the Rasa to hand. And then that will banish the Shadows of the Past, empowering our Zed Legend ability. Then for the rest of it, technically, our Consuming Curse does 4 damage at the moment, because we've got the other 2 in the trash. But I think what we'll do is we will tap 2 to play at a Tide Turner to base, and then use his ability to move the 2 units to each other's location. And then with the remaining 4, we will tap 3 of them in order to play out a Pendulum Blade, and we will then pass. It is now the Renekton's turn. They score up to 6, so they need 2 points to win. They're going to bring their Blazing Scorcher back, they've pulled Rampage. Now, Rampage is a new card that is a 3 energy spell that says, as an additional cost, you may pay 1 body rune as an additional cost. Choose a friendly unit and an enemy unit. If you paid the additional cost, give the friendly unit +2 this turn, and then regardless of the additional cost, they deal damage equal to their mights to each other. In other words, this is just a very convoluted challenge or marching orders, but because of the +2, it can be really powerful at sometimes. For... we have access to, as usual, 7 runes, which is not enough to play out the Gentle Gem Dragon. I think we'll tap 3 in order to play a Rampage, not paying the extra cost in order to target these 2 units against each other, which unfortunately does mean the Kennen is going to die, but the Gentle Gem Dragon would have taken 4 damage. Then we're going to recycle the red in order to play out a Seal of Rage. And then the Renekton will move in, and because we control 4 or fewer runes, we deal 2 damage to all enemy units here, killing the Tide Turner before combat even really begins, and scoring to 7 points. The combat will resolve, meaning the Gentle Gem Dragon will heal. And then we are going to tap the Seal of Rage in order to hide the Here to Help here. The reason for this is the Here to Help will reduce the cost of a unit's might energy cost by 3. So this will reduce to 5, and then we have access to 4 elsewhere. It's essentially just a bluff at this stage as a way to hide a card. If it lives until next turn, great, we can play out the Gentle Gem Dragon for quite cheap. And they will pass. It is now the Zed's turn. They will begin by tapping 3, recycling 1 in order to return the Renekton to hand. That will fizzle the Here to Help because there's nothing we can do with it. Well, actually, it technically, and here's a very important ordering thing, those 2 units, or these 2 cards, exist at the battlefield at the same time. The removal of the Renekton needs to occur after the reveal of the hidden spell, because the spell itself requires you to control a battlefield. And upon resolution of the Starcrossed, we no longer control this battlefield, which means the Here to Help can't play a unit to that battlefield. Then for 3 more recycle, we're going to play another Starcrossed. Oh, actually. Need to return both of those. Because we need to play a unit before it, because it requires there to be a friendly and enemy unit. That's my bad. So for 1 power and flow 1 rune, we're going to play out a Rasa, and then we're going to use that in order to play out and then return that Rasa to hand, return the Renekton to hand, fizzling the Here to Help. And then we're going to do the same thing. And we'll choose to return the Gentle Gem Dragon to hand, and the Rasa comes back to hand. Then we will spend that power in order to play out the Rasa again. And then we can not Headless Resurrection, instead we're going to use the Zed Empowered ability in order to get rid of the Headless Resurrection and draw 1. We draw into another 2 cost. Tap 3, recycle 1 for a fizz to play what spell? We could choose the Starcrossed, but unfortunately the Starcrossed costs 1 purple power, and we only have 1 purple power, which would cost the fizz. So we can't play out a fizz into a Starcrossed. We would have to choose either or, which bit impossible to get over, unfortunately. I think we'll just have to tap 2 to play out a Treasure Hunter and pass. And it becomes the Renekton's turn. They move up to this battlefield, conquering, and they can't score because they're already at 7, so they scored at 8. That's what they've drawn instead. And then tap 6, tap the seal, and then recycle 2 runes to play your legend, and then recycle 1 red in order to play out a Renekton Rage Fueled. Accelerated, moves into this battlefield and scores to 8. Kind of interesting. I definitely think that Zed got the short end of the stick on that one. And so we'll quickly jump straight into game 2 with some sideboarding. Let us bring over to this one. So with some sideboarding, there's nothing really interesting to it. So I'm just going to quickly speed run through it actually. We'll pop one of those in. Cool. It is now going to be the Zed's turn to go first again. They're going to mulligan, they're going to keep that hand, and the Renekton is going to do the same thing. So the only new card that we can really look at right now is going to be Renekton's legend ability, or signature ability, Dominus. Action speed, this turn, double a unit's might and give it power to pay 2 power ready me. Once again, really strong. The Zed is going to begin with the same opening of a treasure hunter, and then the Renekton is going to start with the same opening of an eager Drakehound coming in ready, and moving over to the Vilemore's Lair, scoring to 1. They will then pass, and it is now the Zed's turn. The Zed will move over to Minefield, moving creates the gold. They will conquer 2-1, and then they will burn 2 cards, being a Headless Resurrection and a Tide Turner. Then for 4, they're going to tap 3, recycle 1 in order to play out a Cannon, burning 2 more, a Consuming Curse, and a Rasa. And they're going to tap 1 in order to play a stacked deck, looking at the top 3 cards of their main deck. They can see a Fizz, another Cannon, and a Shadowcloaked Lurker, which is the last of the 3 that I know of that like trash. This costs 2 less, so it's a 5 energy, 5 might unit that costs 2 less if you have a card with my name in your trash. Kind of powerful. Of these 3, we're going to put the Shadowcloaked Lurker to hand, and we will conclude Zed's turn. It is now the Renekton's turn. They scored a 2. With 4 runes up, they're going to tap those 4, recycle 2 body in order to play out a Renekton from their signature Chosen Champion slot, 4/6. And then they can't bring the Eager Drakehound back because they're at Vilemore's Lair. It is now the Zed's turn. They will score to 2 as well. They're going to tap 2 to play a Consuming Curse, dealing 3 damage to the Eager Drakehound because they have a Consuming Curse in their trash. The Eager Drakehound will die. And then for 3 runes remaining, they're going to tap 3, recycle 1. And then before that, they're going to move the Treasure Hunter back to create a gold. And then they're going to play Starcross targeting the Renekton and their Treasure Hunter. The Renekton will be returned to hand, and so will the Treasure Hunter. And they will pass their turn. It is now the Renekton's turn. They're going to tap 4. And recycle 2 for Renekton's legend ability to bring out the Renekton again and pass. It is now the Zed's turn. They're going to move their... They're going to tap 2 to play out a Treasure Hunter. They're going to move their Cannon over to this battlefield. When I conquer, give a unit a spell in your trash flow. So they're going to do that, but before that they have to also take the top 2 cards and put them into trash, which is a Treasure Hunter and another stacked deck. They're going to choose to give Starcrossed flow, and so they will play that for 3 runes, recycle 1, targeting their Treasure Hunter and the Renekton again, and that will now be removed and empower the Zed's legend ability. The Zed will then not do that. They will tap 2 to play out the Treasure Hunter, and they will pass. It is now the Renekton's turn. They're going to tap 3 and then recycle 2 in order to play out a Blazing Scorcher, and then pass. They've had a very rough string of turns, but that's okay. Things happen. They're only 1 point behind. It is now the Zed's turn. They score up to 4. They move their Treasure Hunter getting 1 gold to the Varmor's lair. They bring their cannon back. And then they will, for 5, play their chosen champion. Sorry. We will not do anything else this turn. It feels kind of weird leaving 4 up. Looking at his trash, we could play a Shadows of the Past, return 2 units from trash to owner's hand. Looking at the Tide Turner and the Treasure Hunter, or maybe the Tide Turner and the Rasa. But actually, let's just do that for not wasting resources. 3, recycle 1 to return a Rasa and a Tide Turner to hand. And pass. It is now the Renekton's turn, first turn with actually a unit. They're going to move their Blazing Scorch over to here, killing the Treasure Hunter and scoring to 3. And then for 4 runes up, they're going to tap those 4, recycle 2 in order to play out a Renekton to their base. And that is all they wrote. It is now the Zed's turn. They drew a Shadow Assassin. I enter it if you have a card with my name in your trash, which we do not. For 5 runes, they're first going to move their cannon over to this battlefield, and they're going to choose to conquer and give of these cards. Let's see, do they have a Consuming Curse in hand? No, so these are the only 2 Consuming Curses. I think we'll do a stacked deck. We'll do a stacked deck for 1. The cannon will now conquer, put the top 2 cards of their deck into trash, and then... technically that's a misordering of me, so I should be doing this and then I should be doing this, because then we've just seen a Death Mark and a Fizz come out, so the Death Mark already has flow, so it doesn't really matter, but that's a potential ordering error there. We will then play out the stacked deck for 1 energy, look at the top 3 cards of our deck. We'll see it's an Alawi. When you play me, it's a 6 energy, 4 might, a unit. When you play me, or when I score, play a 1 might tentacle unit token from Bilgewater. I have +1 for each token you control. The token unit, sorry, you control. So regardless of the token unit, as long as it's a token unit, I get +1. Really cool. And another Death Mark. I think we'll put the Alawi to hand, and the rest can be bottomed out. And then we will remove the stacked deck. We already have the Zed empowered, so it's not like we can double empower. And then for 6, we'll be playing out the Alawi and immediately play out a Tentacle. It doesn't say you have to play it to base, but we will regardless. And now the Alawi gets a +1, so she's up to 5. The Zed is going to consider their options. For 3, recycle 1, we're going to play out Perfect Execution, targeting the Alawi. I was thinking about doing the Zed, but it makes more sense to ready the Alawi and give it +3 assault this turn. So it moves into here and immediately goes to 8. Against the 5, that does not stand a chance, which means Alawi will conquer and create a tentacle token unit, giving herself an additional +1 this turn. Well, +1 permanently until it dies. And then she will score up to 6 for that. Then for 1 power, we will play out a Rasa for the reduced cost of having 10 cards in our trash to this battlefield. And then we will tap another one in order to hide card at this battlefield and pass. It is now the Renekton's turn. For 4 runes, they're in a very bad position. They're going to My thinking was we can move over to this battlefield and kill the tentacle for free, reducing the Alawi's might by 1, so it'd be 5. And I think that's still the best play, but obviously with Vilemore's Lair means I can't pull the Renekton back. The alternative is, because we don't know what the Tide Turner, we don't know the Tide Turner is there, we know it's a hidden card. Moving over to this battlefield, deal 2 damage, would mean that their combined health is 6. And that way I could kill both of these units, pray tell that this isn't a scary hidden card. I think the safest option is to move over to this battlefield, and when I attack, if you control 4 or less runes, which we do, deal 2 damage to all units here. That will kill the tentacle, dealing 2 damage to Alawi and reducing the Alawi's might by 1. It is now, I'm going to... I forgot about Dominus, actually. Dominus would have been pretty fun. Double a unit's might. But that's okay. Hindsight's 2020. No, we'll pass priority over to the Zed, who will reveal a Tide Turner and swap the location of them and the Alawi. And that will resolve with the Tide Turner dying, and the Renekton scoring up to 4 points. The heal will resolve, the combat resolve, the Alawi will heal. And we have access to 5, at most we get access 6. Tap 2, recycle 1 to play a Shadow of Strength, drawing 1 card for every mighty you have. We only control 1 mighty. We draw into another Direwing. It's not looking very good. We'll just have to pass. It is now the Zed's turn. They score up to 7. And they will begin by tapping 2, recycling 1 to play Deathmark, burning the top 3 cards, a Starcrossed, a Tide Turner, and a stacked deck, and playing a Shadow Clone token unit. We will then pay 1 energy, recycle 2 power to play that again, and burn 3 more. So we'll burn a Last Rites, a Rasa, and a Pendulum. A Pendulum Blade, sorry, and that will remove the Zed. We will then tap the Zed and recycle in order to get rid of their Headless Resurrection and draw 1 into another Shadow Assassin. We will then we will then play the flow cost, so 1 energy and 2 power, so floating 1 energy. Burn 3 more, we're burning a Perfect Execution, the Consuming Curse, and the Edge of Night, and create a Shadow Clone. I should have a 3rd Shadow Clone, sorry, because I used the Deathmark twice, and that will resolve with and that will also empower the Zed Legend again. Then we haven't put any of those. No, we haven't put either the Shadow Cloaked Lurker or a Shadow Assassin. We've got 8 cards, and I can almost guarantee that 3 of them will be 2 of these and 1 of these. That's pretty funny. Is there a units that we would want to return to hand? Not desperately. Maybe just another Rasa. But at this stage, we are going to, for 1 energy we're already floating, and then 2 more and recycle 1, we're going to ready up this Shadow Clone and give it +3 Assault. So it gets the 3 Assault and then the additional 4 Assault on this, and that will also remove that card. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then for 7 it will move into this combat. And there is nothing the Renekton really has available to them, and so that will lose, and they will score up to 8. Interesting. I mean, that game went a lot faster. I think that we saw... Oh, I think we saw some really interesting alternatives that game, which is quite nice. Compared to what we saw in game 1, where it felt like Renekton was dominating, this game felt a lot more the opposite. Just doing some sideboarding. Cool. And we'll see the last battlefields from both. We are going to see the Hall of Legends. When you conquer here, you may pay 1 energy to ready your legend. And then we'll see on the other side the Academy. When you hold here, give your next spell this turn repeat equal to its base cost. Kind of powerful, especially if you were to pair it with things such as Flow, so that you could flow out some really powerful cards and then repeat them before they banish themselves. The Renekton will, for the first time, choose to go first. And we're going to see some pretty bad opening hands from both of them, actually. The Renekton's got the worst end of the stick on that one. They're going to tap 2, recycle 2 in order to exhaust their legend, and then play out a Herald of Scales and pass. The Zed is going to begin by tapping 2, recycling 1 to play out a Sundisk. Sundisk is an Origins gear. 2 energy, 1 power, which has exhausts me on Legion. The next unit you play this turn enters ready, but it can only be affected once you've played another card this turn. So kind of powerful. Pass it back over to the Renekton, who will begin by tapping 2, recycling 2, and to play out the Renekton to play out a Blazing Scorcher, and pass. I'm trying something unique with the Renekton, where I'm just trying to kind of run it down, because the Zed isn't playing all that aggressive because they can't. Tap 3, recycle 1 to play out a Cannon. It cannot enter ready because, well, the next unit now we could play would enter ready, but this unit cannot. When you play me burn 2, we're going to be burning a Treasure Hunter and a Consuming Curse. It is what it is. Pass it back over to the Renekton. They are going to conquer the Hall of Legends for 1. And then they will pass. I was thinking about using the Rampage to kill the Cannon, but that would... It feels weird doing it a 3rd time. It is now the Zed's turn. They will begin by tapping 2, recycling 1 to play a Death Mark, burning 3 cards, 1, 2, 3, and play a Shadow Clone to base. That will resolve. And then for 3, they're going to for 3, they're not really going to do much, unfortunately. They're going to move over to this battlefield, conquer. The next spell you cast this turn, because we haven't held, won't trigger. The conquer, we're going to choose to give to stacked deck. So we're going to play the stacked deck for 1. Look at the top 3 cards of our main deck. We're going to see another Cannon, another Consuming Curse, and a Perfect Execution. So we've already seen all 3 Consuming Curses. Let us put the Perfect Execution to hand, recycle the rest, and then remove the stacked deck, empowering the Zed. And then we're going to exhaust and disempower the Zed, discarding a Bushwhack to draw 1, and we see it is the Shadow Assassin, which we already have in our trash, so that means that we can now play her for entering ready, which is kind of handy. For the last 2, we're going to pass priority. pass turn, and it is the Renekton's turn. They hold to 2. Then 1, 2, 3. Exhaust Renekton's Legend for 4, 5. Play out a Direwing, which has an energy cost reduction of 2 because Herald of Scales, and because we control a dragon, it enters ready. And we move over to this battlefield. It is 4 against 7. There is not many options for the poor Zed in this case, and so they will lose their cannon. The Renekton will score to 3 and pass. The Zed will tap 6 to play out an Alawi, creating a tentacle, and immediately going up to 6 this turn, and they will pass. It is now the Renekton's turn. They scrop to 5. And they're going to begin. I mean, my first thought was I'll Falling Star and kill the Alawi, and then my second thought was I'll use Falling Star and kill the two clones. And now I'm just thinking, is it even worth doing that? Nah, let's do it. Tap 2, recycle 2, Falling Star. Kill the 2 token units, reducing Alawi's might down to 4. That will resolve. And then we will pull both of these units back, and then for 2 up, we'll just pass. It's now the Zed's turn. They're going to move the Alawi over to here. Gorain creates a tentacle. 8 runes up. Tap 5 to play out a Shadow Assassin, which enters ready. Move over to here, score to 3. 3 runes up. We will play for 2 and tap the Sun Disk so it enters ready, a Treasure Hunter to the battlefield, then move it back, creating gold at base, and then pass. I'm not too worried about the Renekton winning next turn, so I'm more just developing to play out what happens next. Well, we see a new card. Corrupted Dragon. 10 energy, 2 power for 10 might unit. If your score is not within 3 victory points, I enter ready. When I attack, you may move in any number of enemy units to here with 5 might or less to its base. Okay, so right now if I was to play this, it would not enter ready because I'm within 3 points of winning. But then if I was to move into this battlefield, I would actually be able to push back at these both of these units. Interesting. That is kind of powerful. Been yawning, I've got a coffee. I think for the Renekton, they are much in the same mind as me as I'm not too worried about this turn per se. So I'm going to tap 3 to play the Blazing Scorcher. And then we're going to tap 1 and then tap Renekton to recycle 2 in order to play out Rampage, targeting the Direwing and the Alawi. Killing the Alawi and dealing 4 damage to the poor Direwing, but it will re-heal because we're going to pass turn. It is Zed's turn. They score up to 5 points. They're going to begin by moving their Treasure Hunter. Make another gold. They're going to tap 3, recycle the gold to play Shadows of the Past, returning the Alawi and the cannon to hand. Then they're going to tap 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because we've played another card this turn. We're going to play the Alawi, and it's going to enter ready. It's going to play a tentacle. and it's going to immediately have 6 for the 2 tentacles again, and then we're going to see the Shadow Assassin and a tentacle come back and pass. It is now the Renekton's turn. They're going to begin by moving the Blazing Scorch over to here and scoring 2/6. Then tap 1, recycle 1 to sabotage. They get a look at the opponent's hand and remove any non-unit card from it they don't like, or recycle it. So it's between the 2 Perfect Executions and the Consuming Curse. They're going to get rid of Perfect Execution back to the bottom of the deck. That will resolve. And then for 3 runes up, they will pass. It is now the Zed's turn. They score 2/6. They are going to move their Alawi over to here, scoring 2/7 and creating another tentacle, bolstering their Alawi's might back up 2/7. They're going to move a Shadow Assassin over to this battlefield. Do we have any flows worth worrying about? Oh, we have Deathmark, so actually we will play out the Deathmark now. So tap that, recycle 1 and the gold in order to play the Deathmark. Burn 3 more, so we're going to burn out a Tide Turner, a Pendulum Blade, and an Edge of Night, and that will remove itself, empowering the Zed. Then we will exhaust the Zed and discard a Consuming Curse to draw 1. We draw into a Shadow Cloaked Lurker. Do we have a Shadow Cloaked Lurker in our trash? No, so it's still a 5 cost. We will then pay that 5 cost in order to play the Shadow Cloaked Lurker to this battlefield. And then we'll tap 3, recycle 1 in order to play a Kin into this battlefield. And then we'll move a tentacle to this battlefield and a tentacle to this battlefield, and we will pass. It is now the Renekton's turn. I forgot to kill Blazing Scorcher, but the Blazing Scorcher definitely died to the Alawi's 7. I forgot to talk about that showdown. I was already thinking about the fact that, oh yeah, the Blazing Scorcher's dead. Blazing Scorcher's very dead. Now, for 5, then recycle 2 orange to make 2 more power. We now have 7 floating energy. We're going to play the Renekton and recycle a red rune in order to have it enter accelerated. We are then going to move we've got access to 21 Might, 3, 7, 10, 15, 21. Nothing has Assault. We've got less than 4 runes, so this will deal 2 damage to every unit at a battlefield we enter to. So it'll immediately kill either the Treasure Hunter and the Tentacle, or these 2 tentacles. I'll do the blue number, or the grey numbers for the Alawi's units, and then the red numbers for the Renekton's units. So at this battlefield we've got 7, 8, 9, 14. And then at this battlefield we've got 1, 6, 10, 11. So 25 is a bit bigger than 21, unfortunately, for the Renekton. If we were to move this Renekton into this battlefield, it would deal 2 damage to all these units, killing these 2, reducing the might here by 2, and then an additional 2 for the Alawi, so that'll drop down to 10. This will take 2 damage, this will take 2 damage, which means that the combined health pool will be 6, which means this one Renekton can come in here and clear this out. It does not mean it can conquer, but it can clear out. This battlefield, however, with 11, will have to take everything else with it, and I think that's exactly what needs to happen. We need to move over to this battlefield, and we need to first announce that I am attacking, and do the attacking trigger, and that will outright kill this tentacle and this tentacle, reducing the Alawi's might by 2, and these both take 2 damage. I will then pass priority, and it is now the Alawi's turn, or the Zed's turn, and they're going to tap 2, recycle 1, to play a Ride the Wind, targeting this Alawi and moving it over to the other battlefield. And reading it. That will resolve. This combat will now resolve, and the Shadow Lurker will die. The Alawi will heal back up, and the Renekton will conquer. Who's 7. Then moving the 7, the 5, and the 3 over to this battlefield. We are going to see, unfortunately, for the poor Renekton, that this is 5, 6, 10, 15, 16 might to their 15 might, which means we can kill everything besides 1 tentacle, which is exactly what will happen. They will pass, and that 1 tentacle will hold them to 8 points. Now, just as, because I don't really talk about it, the reason that we used Ride the Wind there is we knew we were going to lose that combat, and we had 2 options. We can bring in a unit from here to this battlefield and hold, or we can pull a unit from here over to here and hold. There was no risk either way, but we couldn't keep the ordering as it was because it was essentially a perfect clear into a just over the limit hold. And so that was really fascinating. I think, honestly, I was really expecting in that circumstance the Renekton to be winning, but I do think the way I played the Renekton in that circumstance was way too aggressive. He has a lot of powerful, high energy cost units, and I'm over here burning runes for turn 1 to play out, Herald of Scales. So it was really fun. Oh goodness me. It was really good. I'm really happy that I got to play out all of the legends. Between those 2, I really enjoyed what Renekton did, but I really enjoyed what Zed could provide. I think that Chaos is always going to be a really fascinating colour combination with anything. Cannon is a great example of that as well. So I hope that you've enjoyed this. If you want to let me know down below who has been your favourite legend to play from the Vendetta so far, please feel free to. Otherwise, I will catch you guys in the next one, which will be a bit more informative and educational. We'll see what it has entailed.